Good morning, everyone, and Chodesh Tov. Today is Rosh Chodesh Kislev, the beginning of the month that will lead us into Hanukkah, the month of light. This week's Parasha is Parasha Toldot, and today is also a very special day because a year ago today I became an Abba. The birthday of Tzofia, Yerushalayims. And a birthday is very, very special because a birthday is the day that God decided that the world needs you. The world to be able to exist from today, it needs you. Your purpose in the world starts today. So it's a very, very, very special day. In this week's Parasha, Parasha Toldot, we have the story of Yaakov and Esav and their rivalry and their differences as twins growing up in the same house and growing up very, very differently, having very different personalities, looking for different things out in life. One of the stories of Yaakov and Esav, or perhaps one of the main stories of Yaakov and Esav, is a story of Esav is coming back from the hunt, and he's tired, and Yaakov is making a lentil stew, and Esav looks at him and says, "Give me from this red thing. Haliteni na min ha'adam hazeh." And Yaakov sees this as an opportunity, and he says, "I will give it to you in exchange for the Bechorah, for being the eldest child." They were born a few minutes apart, but the rights of the eldest child means the blessing of Avram and Yitzchak. It means the blessing of the Jewish people going through him. And Esav dismisses it right away and says, "Here, take it." And he gives him the Bechorah. They sign a paper, and he takes the stew and he eats it. And it says, and he gets up and he leaves and he ignores the importance of the Bechorah, the importance of being the firstborn. Now, in this story, there's a lot to discuss, but one of the really interesting things for me is a few years ago I was sitting in a lecture on ADHD, kids with a lot of energy, a hard time to concentrate, and a very big part of that has to do with impulsivity. And one of the people that was speaking there was an expert on the field, Dr. Chesner, and he was talking about the fact that when he went a few years back, he went to a restaurant in Yerushalayims called Eucalyptus. And Eucalyptus is famous for making biblical dishes. Now, he was sitting there and he ordered the lentil stew. And it comes to the table and it's green. So the Torah tells us it's red, right? Esav says, "Bring me from this red thing." And it says that Yaakov is making this lentil stew. And yet in front of him is this green lentils. So he asks to talk to the chef, who this is, his whole thing is biblical food. And he asks to talk to him about it. So the chef comes out and he says, "Follow me into the kitchen." So Dr. Chesner goes into the kitchen with him and he shows him, he says, "You see these lentils? When they start out, while they're soaking and they're still raw and not cooked, they're red. Once they go through this whole process of cooking, the stew becomes green." He says, Esav is so impulsive. He's not even waiting for the food to be ready. He says, "Give it to me while it's still raw. I don't care." And he eats it. And this is such an important lesson. It's such an important lesson on who Yaakov is versus who Esav is. The descendants of Yaakov versus the descendants of Esav. The place of how we eat. One of the things that we do before we eat is we make a blessing. And the reason, or one of the reasons we make a blessing, is to suppress our animalistic side and take it and elevate it to a spiritual place. So when I'm going to eat, I'm allowed to eat food. I'm allowed to eat a wide variety of foods. But when I'm going to sit down and eat, I stop for a second. And I appreciate everything that went into this. I appreciate if it's an animal that died so I can eat it, I appreciate that. If it was vegetables or fruit, I appreciate that someone grew them. I appreciate that God made it rain and had everything happen so that I can come here and I can eat it. If it's bread or cookies or drinks, everything that I do, I stop and I appreciate. And I thank God for the whole process that this went through to bring it to me. I say shehakol niya bidvaro, that everything is created with his words. Boreh pri ha'etz, the blessing on fruit, that God is creating fruit. Boreh pri ha'adama, blessing the fruit, that God creates the fruit from the ground, the vegetables. Okay, and for every food, I'm thanking God before I eat it. I stop. I don't rush in to my meal. And then if I have a complex meal with a lot of different blessings, then I'm not eating like an animal. I don't show up and just gobble it up. I stop, and before each food, each category of foods, I make a blessing for it. And I appreciate it. And I am becoming, as opposed to from an animalistic place, of Esav, of give it to me while it's still raw. I have the place of Hakol Kol Yaakov, the voice of Yaakov, the blessing, the power in our words. And I stop and I say, thank you, God, for what I'm about to eat. And I eat it. And when I finish, I don't say, okay, now that I'm full, I don't need, I can go rest. I stop and I say thank you for everything that I just ate. I appreciate what I was given. And I say, Birkat HaMazon, the blessing on the food. And I thank God for that. And this is a very, very, very important lesson from Yaakov and Esav. Now, before we sit down to eat our next meal, let us keep that in mind. Let's keep that in mind and remember to nourish our spiritual side just as much as we nourish our physical side. Shabbat Shalom.